Ever wonder what it feels like to step back into the world of darkness, revenge, and redemption? Why is the new Crow remake regarded a flop while the original 1994 film is regarded a cult classic? Why did that one succeed when the new Crow bombed in the box office? Why is it considered a failure? Join me as we dive deep into the haunting world of The Crow. In this episode, we'll compare the original film to its recent remake, exploring the similarities, differences, and the enduring legacy of the iconic anti-hero. So fasten your seatbelts because we're about to embark on a journey filled with crows, revenge, and a whole lot of emo gothy goodness. So I went ahead and I watched the remake to The Crow on opening day because I am an avid Crow fan. I really very much enjoy and love the original film of 1994 featuring Brandon Lee, the late Brandon Lee. And that film, when it came out, I was about 10 years old during that time period where a boy figures out what kind of person he's going to be. You know, what kind of personality you're going to be as an adult. How are you going to treat people? You know, you're figuring stuff out. And this film really resonated with me. The story it told, the morals behind it, the themes, the sense of justice, I guess. And I'm not saying that I'm a perfect. No, I've got my flaws. With that being said, this movie really just hit at the right time, not just for me, but for a lot of people. It hit at the right time. It was at the height of grunge and the height of emo and gothic communities, and the aesthetics, the way, the personalities, the style, the darkness. It was just lightning in a bottle. And it was at the time where the culture was starting to accept and really embrace what The Crow represented. We were ready for it. And it landed with me to the point where I was literally, for Halloween, I dressed up as The Crow for like 4 years in a row. Like, it was just my jam. I love that movie. I watched it all the time. I continue to love it and watch it at least on a yearly basis. I watch it just about every Halloween. I did rewatch it before I watched the new Crow movie, just for comparison purposes and for this episode. But, you know, it wasn't homework for me. I enjoyed watching it. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen that movie. I can watch it over and over, and I will always treasure my time with the movie. And it's not homework. It's not a job for me. I enjoyed it. But let's dig a little bit deeper. Plots and themes.
People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it, and the soul can't rest. Then sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
The core plot to The Crow is there is a certain someone who is wronged in life. He's deleted out of existence, and he is brought back by a crow. You know, it's a supernatural event. He's brought back to life, and the core purpose is for him to exact revenge on those who wronged him, those who were involved, and make things right. That's really it. It's not super complicated. It's not a very deep story. There's not a lot of fluff to it. It's fairly straightforward. Someone got wronged. He's back. He's gonna make it right. And with the story being so simple, there's a lot of room for emotion to be told, whether it be on pages or if it's on film. And while both films share a foundation, they are both clearly very, very different films. They're both very different stories that are being told. The execution is wildly different.
And I say I'm dead, and I move.
In the original Crow, Eric Draven, he's a rock musician, and he's just brutally deleted. He's thrown out of a window, out of a skyscraper. His girlfriend, Shelly, suffers just a brutal end as well. Not to mention that before she was ended, she was violated and just wronged in so many levels. Therefore, a year later, Eric Draven is resurrected, and he returns to seek revenge on those that were responsible for his and her death. Eric's mission is driven by love, loyalty, and a desire for justice. In the new Crow, Eric Draven is a junkie. He's in some sort of, it was a rehab center. Yeah, he's not really relatable. I related, I guess, more so with the 1994 Crow because he's just a dude. He's a regular dude. He's just trying to live his life. He was about to start a new life with his girlfriend, and he was just a regular person. And in this new take, there's no connection there. You lost me already. And as for Shelly, she seems to comes from a family of wealth, but she's hanging out with questionable crowds. She's partying, she's going to the club, she's getting high, she's living that life. She stumbles upon some information that gets the company, I believe the company's name was just Rogue, but they're after her now. She's being pursued and she throws herself onto some cops, and she's carrying, so she goes into rehab for protection purposes. She's trying to get away from the pursuers, which was smart. While she's in there, she meets Eric and she falls for the dude. She falls for the junkie. And his character is a little bit more believable, where he is that loner. He is someone who isn't very expressive to other inmates, just kind of stays to himself. And he opens up to Shelly quite easily. FKH with that actress who played Shelly. The way that Shelly played, she's very open. She's like the opposite of Eric, and opposites attract. It worked. It was fine. Eric fell for the girl. She's outgoing. She's not what he is. And yeah, it makes sense. And for this retelling, it feels like it's been maybe 2 weekends that they spend together, and they're madly in love with each other. Both of them are ended, and yeah, that's kind of it. Eric comes back and he's out for revenge, and for me, it's like 2 weekends is not enough to feel that way for a person. And yeah, puppy love, or that's what I'm gonna call it. It was puppy love, and he's back to exact revenge over the 2 weekends that he really enjoyed. It's like, wow, really, dude? That's what you're gonna give me? It just felt kind of empty. And don't get me wrong, I actually did like that they showed more of how Shelly and Eric, how they met, how they spent time together, and but in the original film, their relationship was more showed in flashbacks. But in these flashbacks, it's been years. They've been together for a while. They've experienced life together. They were about to get married and start their life as husband and wife, and they had a life together in the 1994 version. In the new version, again, it was a 2-week relationship, and then bam, they're both removed. Eric comes back. It's like, that was enough for you, dude, to come back to life to exact revenge over that? Like, come on, man. It just didn't feel believable to me. And yes, I am aware these are movies, but it just didn't feel like it was enough for me. To further the plot from the retelling, the 2024 Crow, the main villain is Vincent Rogue. It's not a gang, it's a company. This rich guy, 2024, right? He's Vincent Rogue. It is told very, very early on that he has been alive for quite a long time, centuries. How is he alive? Apparently, he made a deal with a demon to where he has to feed the demon innocent souls, and in exchange, he gets to prolong his life. How does he have to sacrifice these souls, these innocent souls? He is gifted some sort of power to where he can whisper in somebody's ear and bring out the inner dark voices to sound so loud to the point where the person does gruesome things, rather it be ending themselves or ending somebody else. And these are the souls that are gifted to the demon. So that's the reason behind why Vincent, the main bad guy, does these things. It's different. It's a supernatural being that the Crow has to face. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was nice. And in the original story, the original telling, the 1994 film, it was the gang, the group of thugs that did what they did and took out both Shelly and Eric. They kind of did things on their own. They are the ones who barged into Shelly's apartment when she was complaining about the building code and safety, and she was petitioning for good change to take place. But I don't even think that it's really even said that Top Dollar, the big boss, that he owns the building, but you kind of assume that he owns the area, so that's his building, I guess. And so yeah, the thugs are sent and they do what they do. And Top Dollar, the big boss, he's more like a crime lord or like a kingpin. The gang members, the thugs, they're not necessarily memorable, but you kind of remember names like Tintin, Tom Tom, Top Dollar, Fun Boy. And by the way, James O'Barr, he got those names from graffiti signs around this city, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, these characters aren't necessarily memorable, but you kind of sort of remember them, opposed to Big Boss Rogue and his cronies. I'm pretty sure they had names. I don't remember what they are. They were just his cronies. They had no real significance other than they're the ones who did the dirty work. And that's not the only thing that was added. They also threw in the Skull Cowboy. Eric, instead of going to Afterlife, he's stuck in limbo. And there is where he accepts the power of the crow. And he kind of says, yeah, this is what you got to do. You're being gifted power. Go take out the guys who took you out. Make things right. And Eric's like, cool, let's do that. So he serves as the guide. And it was kind of cool. It was neat to see something of sorts to being said, instead of like in the first film, he kind of wakes up. He doesn't really know what's going on. He sees the crow. He follows the crow, the bird that's flying around. It doesn't speak. It doesn't really motion for him to go over any. Eric just kind of, crow, okay, I'll follow you. You found me some boots. Cool. I'm going to keep following you. Like, the bird is serving as his guide, but, you know, it's kind of just like random luck, I guess, that he's doing so. There isn't any real explanation as to why Eric's following the crow, but he does. And in short term, it doesn't really matter, you know? He just kind of goes with it, and the viewer goes with it, and it makes sense. Soon after, you find out that Eric can see what the bird sees, and the bird is like constantly flying around the city looking for Eric's next victim. And the bird is doing its role as the guide. And in the new movie, the crow, the bird itself, really doesn't do much. It flies in to shot, flies away, and that's all it really does. It really doesn't do a damn thing. And this one is the dude stuck in limbo, which I feel like they gave him a name. It might have been Kronos. I don't recall it. I don't remember. He's the guide. Let's jump into more characters and their development. Sticking with Cowboy, I'm going to jump to the very end. He appears in the land of the living. At the very end, he shows up. So I was hella confused when that happened. Like, he was the guy in limbo, and then he shows up at the end. Why? No clue, no explanation, but he's there. And why is he there? Because Shelly comes back to life. She doesn't come back as the crow, no. The part of the story that is being told, Eric trades his life to save Shelly because he loves her so damn much. Those 2 weeks that they spent together, amazing. He's willing to trade them for her. And yeah, I'm sure you could have guessed that Eric in the end is going to win in the remake. And yeah, that was part of the deal. He gets to bring back Shelly and his life is ended. And yeah, that's where the limbo guide shows up as an ER when she came back. And it's like, okay, cool, but why are you there? It just made no sense, man. But Shelly, okay, let's focus on her a bit. Like I mentioned earlier, she comes off as very open. She's talkative, actually seems like a very sweet person. She seems like a loving person. But at the same time, she is toxic AF. Oh my God, dude. Like in my review of the movie itself, spoiler-free review, there's a scene where they're on a bridge and she's like holding Eric and says, if I jumped off the bridge, would you jump off with me? And this whole scene went on for a good 2-3 minutes. I'm like, dude, this girl is toxic. What the hell? Get that girl away. No, man. It was so bad. It was absolutely ridiculous. Like, that's not love. That's some bull crap. Man, I was not cool with that. That was not Shelly. In the original film, Shelly didn't do much except be harassed and suffer, what was it, 20 hours of pain at the hospital. Yeah, and then fuel Eric for his quest of revenge in the original film. That was her role. That's really it. And then, of course, where she shows up as an angel, her spirit shows up at the end to take Eric away. That was what Shelly did. So she had a lot more to do in this remake, which I didn't mind. I thought it was kind of neat, but at the same time, like, what? Decide what kind of character you want to be. Like, you're going to be sweet or you're going to be toxic. Like, she was both. And yeah, it was just a really weird portrayal, I thought, of Shelly. Like, she couldn't decide what kind of person she was. And when it comes to Eric Draven in the new one, the remake, he, like I kind of said earlier, just a junkie, doesn't have any real motivations. He doesn't have anything going for him. He is just kind of a simp. He falls in love with Shelly and he lives for her. That's Eric Draven. In the 1994 film, he at least had a life. He was a musician. He had albums. He had goals. He wanted to do things in his lifetime, and they don't dig too deep into his life like that, but he had aspirations. And it just feels like a stronger bond between him and Shelly, and more reason for him to come back as the Crow, to be resurrected and come back for revenge. Like, it just felt so much wholesome, while the new one was just so empty. It was just blah. It didn't make sense, dude. And even though in the 1994 film, the gang members, the thugs, they weren't really like focused on, but each thug had their own personality. Tintin, the dude with the knives, he was just kind of they were all a-holes, right? But like, he had his thing. He had the knives at the very least. He had some sort of personality. He liked to inflict pain slowly. And then there's Fun Boy, right? Who was a mega junkie. He was dating Darla's mom, kind of, but still doing his thing on the side. Whatever. He was with her, Darla's mom, and at least he had some sort of relationship, I guess. He at least spent time with her, I suppose. He wasn't a very good role model to Darla, the little girl, or anything, but he didn't necessarily seem like he really treated her badly, I guess. And of course, there was Top Dollar, who, big boss. He was running the city, the gangs, the streets, all that. And he had that creepy half-sister who was into cutting girls' eyes out. Yeah, it was creepy. It was creepy. It was unclear if there was incest involved, but at least they were comfortable enough to be naked around each other, which was, yeah, no, I can't, no. Jumping over to the new film, the cronies, they didn't really have much personality. They did what they were told. I think the most personality was the one that was choking out Shelly, because he was staring at Eric's eyes while he was doing so. They were both being suffocated, but that one dude who was holding Shelly down, he looks at Eric's eyes and he's smiling, and it was like, oh, I cannot wait for Eric to put him down. Like, it was such a dirtbag move for him to do that, just smiling at him like that. Oh man, when that guy went down, I was pretty glad when that happened. But yeah, that was literally like the emotion showed. The boss of the cronies, what was her name? Miriam? I think that's it. Miriam? Yeah. Miriam. Okay. So she was cold, just stone cold, the whole thing. And then at the very end, in the opera scene, that's like the final scene, she calls Big Boss and says, hey, he's here. Help me. And Big Boss says, it was a pleasure having you work for me. See ya. And she's like crying. She's sad. And they give her like a few lines to say, like, oh, you start off not knowing what's happening, and then you know what's happening, and then sooner or later you're involved. And it's like, oh, you're almost a victim yourself. You didn't mean for it to go this far, but she was definitely a part of it. And yeah, I didn't feel bad for her whatsoever. If they're trying to evoke emotion out of the viewer from that scene, like, it wasn't enough, dude. Yet 3 lines is not going to change your character. It's not going to invoke sympathy. It's just not going to happen. When it was her turn to face Eric, like, no, 0 sympathy. Take that bitch out. There's a few other minor characters, like friends of Shelly's. They were just there to kind of get the story rolling. I couldn't tell you their names. They were kind of insignificant. They were just kind of there. No, yeah. No personality there. There's nothing.
Victims, aren't we all?
Let's talk about visual and style tones. Okay. Visually, 1994. Let's see. If you rewatch it now, there are some scenes that are a little rough to watch, especially the CGI scenes. The crow flying over the city. You can tell it looks kind of like a video game. Like, it doesn't necessarily hold up very well to today's standards. Okay. But that was 30 years ago. You got cut it some slack. Okay. It looked great back then. And today, with the new version, visually, it looked awesome. It looked great. Obviously, the CGI has come a long way. And even with that, yeah, still kind of can tell when some of the effects were looking a little wonky. Okay. Speaking about a little wonky, I just realized one of my mics is hanging back there. Leaving it in, but let's go on. The city itself, it looked like a city. What can you say? It looked fine. It looked good to me. You go back to 1994 and it was a city, but it was like a city that was filled with crime. It looked like Gotham. It looked like the gangs had taken over everything, and it looked broken down. It looked beaten. It looked almost as if the city was another character. It was breathing life of its own. Like, the city was something to look at. A new version, it just looked like a city. You walk downtown and you look around, you see some buildings and you see the city. Nothing really special about it. It was just a city, which is fine. It's whatever. But you can definitely tell the difference between the two when you're making the comparisons. Yeah, there's definitely a difference there. The way it was shot, the original, the 1994, there was a lot more dark tones there. It was definitely more so like in the shadows. There are times where Eric is like walking out of the dark and it's like, whoa, you just kind of appeared out of nowhere, because I mean, everything is shot so dark and gritty, and it really fit the tone that 1994's Crow was going for. It jumped over to 2024 and there was nothing wrong with it, but you don't necessarily feel these dark tones. It didn't feel like that gritty gothic emo, and I don't think it necessarily was trying to be that. It wasn't trying to emulate that. And with that being said, it was just kind of doing the revenge movie, which, okay, that's essentially what The Crow is. It's a revenge movie, but there was just kind of no heart to it. It was just revenge for the sake of revenge. There was nothing stylish about it. There was nothing to make it stand out. And I think maybe that's one of the bigger things that in 1994, it stood out because of its the emo and gothic roots that The Crow was shooting for, that The Crow was aiming to be. It stood out in a field of action and revenge movies that were nothing like The Crow. That's not necessarily 2024's fault, because everything's been done. The dark, gritty aesthetics of the 1994 film just really suited the tone that it was going for. And it just perfectly complemented the themes of revenge and loss. The color palette from the 1994 film was more muted. It was a desaturated color palette, and it really gave the sense of despair. The new film didn't really explore that. Yeah, there are some scenes. I'm not going to say it doesn't. There are some scenes where Eric is like, he's down on himself. He's going through memories. He's remembering Shelly. He's remembering the good 2 weeks that he had. I'm not going to stop that. I'm going to keep hammering that in. But this scenes where he's feeling the pain, and they were shot in these dark lit rooms, and you kind of, it set the tone for those moments. It set the tone, but like throughout, it was well lit. It was putting the Crow in the light and putting him in front of everything. Like, it didn't have that sense throughout the whole thing.
Victims, aren't we all?
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because in the fight scenes, like, you can actually see a lot more of what's going on. You can see when somebody gets punched, like, they were throwing good punches. They were getting stabbed in the sword with the samurai sword. There was a bit where Eric had a guy stuck to him in the back with the sword, and he shot himself through the stomach in order to get the guy behind him, which kind of seen before, but it was still pretty cool to see. You could actually see everything. Everything was just perfectly lit, and The action scenes, they looked great, and I'll touch a little bit on that later. But back to 1994's film, because everything is a lot darker, everything's a lot muted, you don't necessarily see everything like that. Yes, you can see the fighting, you can see when he stabs Tint in the chest, or you can see when he ties that one dude in the car and he throws him into the lake. Like, you can see everything, but you don't see everything up close and personal. And I don't know, maybe in the original, in the 1994 film, it gives it that sense of mystique, that sense of mystery. You know, you can see just enough, but you don't see everything. Well, the new one, you see everything, and it just kind of gives you that opportunity to see every mistake as well. And by that, when Eric was shot, didn't exactly see where he was shot. Like, it was questionable. It was like, everything's well lit, I'm supposed to be able to see everything, but I couldn't, because of the aesthetics that he had on all the tattoos that covered Eric's body. I couldn't see where the wound was half the time. And by that, like, he gets shot, and I'm looking at his body like, where did he get shot? I can't see it. I couldn't see it because of all the tattoos. I couldn't tell where it was. Everything, all the tattoos in his body were black ink. Like, I couldn't tell. And it was such a quick shot that you just didn't have time to see. And yeah, it was just kind of blah.
You gonna vanish into thin air again?
Thought I'd use your front door.
Oh, and quick note on that. Yeah, I was never a big fan of when the first picture and even the first trailer when it was released and Eric looked like the Joker, not this Joker, but Suicide Squad Joker. Oh, hate it. Didn't like it. He's not a fan of that look. Maybe they wanted to make him stand out, make him look more of a junkie. I guess. Yeah, it gave him that junkie look, sure, but it just, I don't know. It didn't work for me. I didn't like it. It was hard to see. The special effects in the 1994 film, there was, like I said earlier, the CGI was still new. It was still kind of not there yet. And it doesn't necessarily hold up. I do remember a scene where it actually looked pretty good. I don't 100% know, but there's a scene where Eric looks at his hands, which he just cut because he grabbed some broken glass. And he had cuts on his hands, but the blood just goes back into his body. Pretty sure that was played in reverse, but still, like, it looks good. It looked fine. There was a scene where Eric goes after Marion and a couple of the cronies. And there's this big fight scene where he gets into a moving vehicle. He's fighting them off. He takes a couple of them out. And then he gets thrown out of the car. He's run over by a semi truck with the full cab and everything. And it looked pretty awesome. Eric, he's like crawling on the floor. He's got broken limbs. His shoulder's out of socket. His leg is broken. He stands up and you can see the bone in his leg just sticking out. And the skin has been removed. His face has been scraped. And what I thought was really, really cool in this new version, he has to pop these body parts back into place. He's got to put his shoulder back in place and then the body will heal. The leg, same thing. He's got to put it into position and the body will heal. The skin will grow back and the bone will reattach. Like, that was cool. I really liked that. But when you did see the bone in the leg, it looked super fake. The lighting in which Eric was standing in, you should not have been able to see the bone, but it was like illuminating from the inside. It was weird. It's like, hey, hello, I'm here, bone here. It shouldn't have been looking like that. The way it was, not in the lighting that he was standing in. Yes, weren't supposed to be able to see it that clearly. It just looked odd to me. I want to say that this was earlier. It might have been after, I don't remember. But Eric gets shot in the stomach, and part of his organs were coming out. It might have been his lung. I don't recall. But yeah, he had to pop the lung back inside his body, and then it would seal up. The skin would like reattach and heal. And I thought it was really cool. To Bill Skarsgård's credit, like the way he was acting in those scenes, he looked like he was in pain. He screamed like he was in pain. Like, I thought it was awesome. And that is definitely a different take than what he was in the original film. In the 1994 film, he almost seemed invincible, which, I guess it is what it is. And I very much appreciated how much more in depth they kind of took the pain in the retelling. Unfortunately, that isn't kept throughout the whole thing. Kind of like I mentioned in the full review, when he is walking upstairs in that opera scene. He's being shot at from all angles. He's like pop, 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 pop. And yes, his body is being shoved in a direction that he takes the bullet. However, he's no longer screaming. He's no longer showing signs of pain on his face. He's just walking up, taking the shots. And it's like, come on, man. You're supposed to still be feeling these things. Can't tell me that you got used to the pain of what a bullet going through your body feels like. That's just not, it's no, dude. As for the viewing experience in the new one, if you just kind of turn your brain off and just roll with it, you kind of overlook things, right? You can just enjoy it for what it is. And it's just a story for revenge, and you just go with it. And it can work, but when you're paying attention, you see all these things. In 1994's film, everything just kind of blends together. You tend to overlook how invincible Eric pretty much is, because the storytelling is just a little bit deeper. There's just a little bit more there. It's just like it all just meshed together in this little perfect little emo cocktail. And it just gives the 1994 film the edge when it comes to style and the grittiness and the dark tones. And it just, it stands out. What can I say? It stands out. The action. I'm going to start with something that CK said. The trailer showed a lot more action than what the movie actually had in it. And thinking back, I think 90% of the action in the movie was shown in the trailer. The trailer was badass. It was a great trailer. And it was great because it gave away everything. Yeah, there's not a whole lot. I would expect that every other scene or so, there's some action scenes. It's a story about revenge. Go do revenge stuff. But no, they're kind of trying to give us that carrot, trying to make us care about nameless characters who ultimately mean nothing, and follow this story of why Shelly is being pursued. And it's really not even that big of a story. The main story behind it, I guess you can say, is Shelly finds out that Rogue can whisper into people's ears and make them do horrible, horrible things. She got that on film. Rogue finds out that she has it on film. And then she sends people out to take her out. And that's the reason that Rogue takes her out, and Eric just happened to be with her. So he is taken out. That's literally it. Is that deeper than what the reasoning for Shelly being deleted in the first one? Yeah, it is. They give her a lot more to do in this one. But at the same time, it's not like, bam, it's not up there. It wasn't a super difficult mystery to follow. I just feel like in the new version, they wasted a lot of time beating around the bush. They kind of spent too much time on the 2 weeks that Eric and Shelly spent together. Literally about half of the film. That's how long it takes for stuff to get interesting. When Eric finally puts on the paint, it was over half the movie. And he had already started his journey of revenge. Like, he'd already started just as him and his regular self. People will look at him and be like, hey, I deleted you. It's like, yeah, you did. He was just himself. It wasn't until the final scene where Eric put on the paint. And that's one of the big things that I think they screwed up in this new version of The Crow is that face paint. If they made a Superman film and he's Clark Kent for 90% of the movie, and it doesn't feel like Superman, even though it is him, it's not going to feel like Superman. And maybe they were trying to save that for the last, oh yeah, he's finally putting on the paint. If that's what they were going for, they failed. Because I didn't feel that at all. But it's like, okay, finally, dude, Jesus, movie's about to end. And okay. Which, by the way, in the graphic novel, it does look like it's black and white. And that's the look that 1994 went for. But in the actual comic itself, because the comic is black and white, he really does just have black paint on his face, just like Bill did in the new version, which I thought was pretty cool. They kind of went with the comic version. But I can't deny, dude, I absolutely love the white and the black that they have in the 1994 film. I think it looks cool, man. He's like just a vicious mime. He's just a vicious mime who's out for revenge. Like, I don't know how to put it, man. I don't know what it is. I just love the look with the white base and the black paint. It's just, anyways, back to the action in 1994. It's not heavy action, but there's action spread throughout it. There's breaks in between where they're evolving Ernie Hudson's character, the relationship between him and the cop. They're diving deeper into the connection that he had with the little girl, Sarah, how he used to know her in his life, and she was friends with Shelly, and they kind of explore that a little more, and he kind of sort of warms up to her again, and we're to the point where he protects her at the end. He's fighting for her. He's not just fighting for himself anymore. He's fighting for the little girl's life. And then Ernie, of course, he's there to back him up. They built a relationship throughout the film to where he comes into the end for the gunfight to help, opposed to the new movie where in between the scenes there was, again, pursuing characters that nobody cares about, Shelly's friends who were insignificant, and trying to unravel the mystery, which just kind of felt flat. There wasn't a whole lot of scenes where Eric is grieving for Shelly, but there's a couple here and there. And I just thought that the 1994 film is a lot better balanced, where there are times in the new version where he is just killing time. It's just a bad flow. It was a bad flow. I don't know what to tell you. It's horrible. Too much fluff. There was way too much fluff in the 2024 version. There is story there. There is an enjoyable experience there. It's just deep. You have to dig for it. And as a viewer, you shouldn't have to dig for it. And it's just not an overall pleasant viewing experience, unfortunately.
Can't rain all the time.
Eric?
Since the movie just came out, and if you type in the Crow movie review on YouTube, it is being just review bombed by everybody. I literally typed that in and I scrolled down as far as YouTube would allow me. Every single review, I kid you not, it's like, oh, it's garbage, it's trash, damning this movie straight to hell. It's the worst thing since Madam Web. No redeeming qualities here. And I don't necessarily agree with that. There are some good things to this film. I wouldn't say that it's definitely great. In my review, I gave it a 6.5, and I stand by it. 6.5. It's just right there. It's just the tip, just barely there. It wants to be a passable movie, but it just doesn't quite get there. And I know that Rotten Tomatoes is not gospel, right? It's not the word, but let's use Rotten Tomatoes. Tomato meter by the critics, 84 reviews. We got a 19%. That's pretty damn harsh. Popcorn meter, the audience, gives it a 65%. And that falls really about where I'm at, 6.5. I didn't see these scores when I reviewed it. I just talked about it and scored it myself in my own personal opinion. So I'm pretty much right there where the audience is. Now, if you look at the 1994's Rotten Tomatoes page, we're looking at 86% on the tomato meter by the critics, 72 reviews. That is a huge difference from 20. And the popcorn meter, the audience, 90%. Dude, what a difference that is. There's just so many things that 1994 did right, opposed to the new version, which it tried. It tried. It really did. It's a solid attempt. It just falls short, and it falls on its face on multiple aspects. Is it a great movie? No. Is it a horrible movie? I wouldn't say that. There are, like I said, there are some redeeming qualities here and there. I would say it is worth a watch. It's just gonna be forgotten though. It's not. No one's gonna remember this one. That really sucks for Bill, because Bill Skarsgård is a great actor. He's phenomenal. Love the dude, but yeah, this is just gonna be a stain on his resume, unfortunately. As far as I'm aware, nobody was really asking for a remake of The Crow. When the trailer was first released, the reactions that I was seeing, it was kind of split 50-50. Some people were saying like, oh, this actually looks like a good Crow movie. A portion of people were just not interested whatsoever, said it looked like garbage, looked like crap. I was trying to be optimistic. I actually thought the trailer looked really good. And because that movie was 30 years ago, the 1994 film, 30 years, I felt like it was time for a new Crow movie. And yes, we have 4 movies total, the TV series. But even so, that had to be a good 20 years ago, the last time we had any Crow media. I thought it was time. I loved the series, and I thought it was time to bring it back into the spotlight. I was wrong. I was wrong, kind of. You see, what my main problem with this reimagining is that they went with Eric Draven and with Shelly. Honestly, if they would have renamed them, what did I call them earlier? I think I said Bill and Sheila. Like, dude, it's fine. It's another Crow story, not necessarily a good tale of that involves the Crow, but it at least wouldn't have the hate of this being the 1994 remake. It's a completely different story that is being told using the same characters, and that doesn't necessarily work. It doesn't work. It's just the base plot is the same. Everything else is 100% different, and I'm not bagging on the new version because it is different. I thought that was a wise choice for them to do, but because again they went with Eric Draven and Shelly, they're messing with a story that is beloved by millions. You mess with the fan favorite, you screw it up, you're gonna get a lot of hate. That's just the way it is. And why? Why is the 1994 film such a high bar? Why do people love it? Why do I love it? I think it just hit at the right time. The rise of grunge, the rise of emo and gothic communities, the style, the look. Like, it was just the perfect timing for The Crow to hit theaters. The pop culture, the timing, the people, we were ready for that. And it just released at the perfect timing, and we loved it. That's just what it was. It was lightning in a bottle. Something that it's not easy to produce. It involves a lot of luck, really, and they got it. They nailed it. Another big part as to why 1994's film is remembered has to do with the accident involving Brandon Lee. Now, I know it was years ago, but when something like this happens, you tend to remember it. Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee. He was involved in this accident. And I'm going to call it an accident because I wasn't there. The conspiracy theories, they're saying that it was intentional, but I wasn't there. I don't know. What was said was it was an accident. And I've watched previously explanations that they were in such a rush to filming, the person in charge of the props overworked, and stunt coordinators were doing this and that. Like, it was just chaos filming this film. And one thing led to another. A dummy bullet was left in the barrel of the .44 Magnum, and unfortunately, the dude that plays Fun Boy shot at Brandon Lee and hit him in the abdomen. He falls over. He's rushed to the hospital. Several hours later, he passed away. He didn't make it. It's super unfortunate. It really sucks. Brandon Lee, this, I think, would had catapulted his career. This was something that he felt very passionate about, and I really think that this was going to do it for him. And of course, media, the news outlet, it got out there, and then it just brought a lot of attention to the movie The Crow. I think that's also playing a part as to why this movie was so successful, why a lot of people watched it, enjoyed it, and loved it out of respect for Brandon Lee and his family. It just had a wider opportunity to be seen. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing that what happened. As a matter of fact, I kind of feel like if it didn't happen, though, this movie probably would have flown under a lot of people's radars. It probably wouldn't have been as successful, and likely would have gained attraction, that cult following over the years as time goes by. And I'm thinking along the lines of Fight Club, The Thing, Office Space, Willy Wonka, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Rocky Horror Picture Show, movies that initially flopped in the box office, but over time just grew up into the spotlight, and people love these films. They're considered one of the greats, cult classics.
What are you supposed to be, a clown or something?
Sometimes.
In conclusion, of the two, Crow movies is better. Obviously, I'm going to go with 1994. It was lightning in a bottle. It was the perfect timing. It hit me at a point in my life where it just really resonated with me. And even though it doesn't visually look as appealing as the 2024 version. It just stands out to me more in terms of style, storytelling, and of course, the raw emotion that it represents. And the 2024 version, it's an attempt. It's a lifeless attempt. It's kind of a cash grab, if I'm being blunt. And honestly, I don't know who the 2024's version is for. I don't see it resonating with today's kids. I don't see it resonating with fans of the 1994 film. I don't know who this movie is for. And even though I can't speak for CK, when I asked him after the movie, I asked him what he thought of the film, he didn't like it. I thought he would have liked it a lot more than I did, but he didn't like it. And he has no attachments to the 1994 version. He just watched it as a movie, and he wasn't a fan of it. He actually scored it a lot less than what I gave it. If I'm remembering correctly, he gave it a 5, somewhere around there. He didn't really enjoy it. He was looking for more action in there. He wasn't a fan. What about you? Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? What'd you like about it? What'd you hate about it? Am I wrong? Am I being too harsh on this? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, or email me at contact@thesffiles.com. I'd really love to hear what do you think about this one.
If the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever.
That's going to do it for this week's episode of the SF Files. Thank you for joining me. It has been my pleasure to talk about The Crow with you. We have reached the end of the episode, and we have got to close it down. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also listen to us on the go, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, various others, and of course, sweet, sweet, loving Pandora. We love Pandora so much. We've never said anything bad about Pandora, especially not me. And with August ending, this is your last opportunity to send all of your hot dogs on the grill pics, out in the sun, out on the beach, just hanging raw. And of course, I'm talking about Agent K at thesffiles.com. He likes the big ones, the fat ones, the skinny ones, the short ones, the hairy ones, the peeled ones, the ones with the extra skin, the thick ones, the stubby ones, the chos. Those are his favorite. And let's do something just a little special at the end of August. How about a little cocktail umbrella? Just right on the tip. Whoop, make his day. We'll personally rate them for you. He will highly appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This is BogusBird signing out. We will catch you on the next one.